Volgograd on fire, Russia's key oil refinery hit. Putin will tread on Trump's toes. He simply has no other choice. Russian economy is leaking and squeaking, oil refineries ablaze. Learn the aftermath of Russian aggression for Russia. In the early hours of Thursday, August 14, the Russian city of Volgograd came under another Ukrainian drone attack. Residents report explosions and air defense activity, followed by the heavy smoke and fire at the local oil refinery. Local authorities later confirmed the incident. The largest target was the Lukoil oil refinery located within the city limit, which processes up to 15 million tons of crude oil per year. This capacity makes it one of Russia's largest oil refineries and the biggest producer of fuels and lubricants in the country's southern federal district, and main supplier of fuel, by the way, for the Russian army that is fighting in Ukraine for Russia. Photos and videos circulating online showed the aftermath of the strike. Witnesses report multiple drone hits on the Lukoil refinery. Shortly after that, regional officials acknowledged an oil product spill and fire at the facility. Governor Andrei Bocharov stated that the blaze was caused by falling debris from intercepted drones and only from intercepted ones.
Tonight, the Ministry of Defense Air Defense Forces repelled a massive UAV attack on the Volgograd region. As a result of fallen debris, oil products spilled and ignited at the Volgograd refinery. Fire crews promptly began extinguishing the fire. According to preliminary data, there are no casualties. Andrei Bocharov, governor of the Volgograd Oblast in Russia, on Telegram.
What is an utterly important military facility in Russia that is most heavily guarded? Take a wild guess. Well, don't. As new satellite images analyzed by Radio Free Europe reveal that 12 air defense systems have been set up around Vladimir Putin's palace in the recreational area of Valdai, Russia's Novgorod region. They are set there, not near those oil refineries that burn every day. Most of these systems are Panzer S-1 surface-to-air missile and machine gunnery, also mounted on special towers for better visual and coverage. The deployment also includes at least one long-range S-400 air defense system. The first air defense system in this area was spotted back in January 2023, with the second appearing 6 months later. Now, an interactive map created by journalists just showed you the locations of 12 positions around the residence. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has thanked Germany for committing to finance a package of US-supplied military equipment for Ukraine worth $500 million under the PURL initiative. This delivery will help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression, Rutte told Reuters on Wednesday, August 13. Earlier that day, Germany foreign and defense ministers confirmed that Berlin will fund one of the first support packages on the PURL, prioritized Ukraine requirements list. A mechanism announced in mid-July by US President Donald Trump. The package includes critical military equipment that either cannot be produced by European industry or can be supplied faster by the United States than by European or Canadian partners. Amongst the key components are advanced air defense systems, which remain essential for countering continued Russian airstrikes, causing rising civilian casualties all across Ukraine. The ministry said in their joint statement, President Zelensky has thanked partners for their resolve and steadfast commitment.
Our new PURL defense support initiative implemented together with partners is already delivering tangible results. We have $1.5 billion to date. NATO's prioritized Ukraine requirements list allows NATO member states to work together to procure US-made weapons for Ukraine. This is a mechanism that truly strengthens our defense. To date, the Netherlands has contributed $500 million. Denmark, Norway and Sweden have contributed $500 million. And yesterday, Germany added another $500 million. This is a truly significant boost, and I'm grateful to Germany for this important step. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Donald Trump unveiled the PURL program on July 14th, pledging that the United States would provide military hardware and ammunition to Ukraine in several support packages. NATO will coordinate the initiative to ensure that the contents of these packages meet Ukraine's most urgent defense needs. Funding will come from European allies and Canada. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has previously announced that Germany would make a decisive contribution to delivering Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. Other NATO allies have also joined the initiative, and on August 5th, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway announced a combined contribution of over $500 million, with Sweden pledging $275 million, Denmark $90 million, and Norway $146 million. A day earlier, the Netherlands said it would finance also 500 million euros in aid under the PURL program just as well. Ukrainians around the world have taken to the streets with a message: support Ukraine because it's protecting you. The global rallies were triggered by a wave of deadly Russian missile terror strikes at Ukraine. According to the United Nations, July 2025 has become the deadliest month for Ukrainian cities since the start of the full-scale invasion, surpassing even the previous record set in May 2022, a grim record indeed, and exceeding the death and injured toll of June 2025.
In July 2025, at least 1,674 civilian casualties were recorded, 286 killed and 1,388 injured, setting a new monthly record since May 2022. Compared to July 2024, the number of civilian deaths and injuries in July 2025 increased by 22.5%, from a publication of the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine.
Only in the first 3 months of the full-scale invasion were there more casualties than in the past month. Whether you're in a hospital or a prison, at home or at work, near the front lines or far from them, you are at risk of being killed or injured by the war in Ukraine today. That risk is significantly higher than it was a year ago, and it continues to grow.
While politicians debate sending air defense weapons, Russia kills Ukrainians every day. We cannot remain silent. Every delay in aid costs lives. The more we hear about negotiations, the more people are dying in Ukraine. Say participants of the global rallies, Ukraine is not just a victim of aggression, it is a frontline defender, standing not only for its own survival, but for the democratic values, European peace, and a future without dictatorship. It is a matter of the fact. Rallies in Milan, Frankfurt, Paris, London, Rotterdam, and beyond are not simply protests against indifference, they are a demand for action. Calls for peace ring out alongside the sounds of explosions, and every day of delay brings new graves, new tears, immense pain, and new losses for Ukrainians. Vladimir Putin will tread on Trump's toes as that is his only chance. Carpe diem, right? A couple of months ago, he did not even dream to be in the United States ever again in the first place. Now, he's traveling to Alaska. And he's going to show himself there and talk about peace and strike a usual Russian peace pose and project power and confidence and goodwill, even if it's all morbid lies and Russian economies cracking and leaking and oil refineries are burning and more than a million Russians already dead in Ukraine and counting. But that's okay. Russian life in Russia is a common expendable. While completely different stories, those oil refineries set ablaze every single day by Ukraine. So maybe Putin is craving for a break. And if he can persuade Trump to even voice his imperialist, outrageous demands in regards of Ukraine in particular and the rule of law in general, that will add to those demands legitimacy, no doubt. So Putin will tread, lie, and inflate cheeks. And how low can Trump go in this case? Well, we'll see very soon. But as of now, that the powerful play goes on, and Trump may contribute a verse. Maybe only a verse, as maybe, just maybe, only a power of poetry is left to hope for, as even such a stable genius like Donald Trump cannot do much about Putin's craving for terror.
Vladimir Putin Friday in Alaska.
Yeah.
Do you believe you can convince him to stop targeting civilians in Ukraine?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had that conversation with him. I've had a lot of good conversations with him. Then I go home and I see that a rocket hit a nursing home or a rocket hit an apartment building and people are laying dead in the street. So I guess the answer to that is no, because I've had this conversation. I want to end the war.
Today, a very important call with President Trump earlier on in relation to security guarantees, as Emmanuel has just set out. And as we've said all along, we, the coalition, stepping up, showing what we will do, the plans we've put forward, credible military plans, and alongside that, the backing of the US. So we stand ready as a coalition to support the meeting on Friday and everything that I hope can flow out of it. Nothing is obviously guaranteed, and as Emmanuel has said, and Friedrich has said, the President has agreed to debrief immediately afterwards so that we know what the next steps will be. But we're ready to support this, including through the plans that we've already drawn up to deploy a reassurance force once hostilities have ceased.
Well, I could be giving you here more examples of why Putin will exert pressure on Trump and try to play him, and give you more quotes from world leaders and everything, but let's just honestly ask ourselves, does anyone believe that Putin will not lie? Does anyone truly believe Putin wants just peace? Does anyone trust that Putin travels to the United States to negotiate peace? Well, exactly what I thought. He simply has no choice to continue doing what he's doing. Keep on killing people in Ukraine and annex our lands. And to convince Donald Trump to somehow legitimize this grim absence of choice of his is Putin's task number one. Crucial, vitally important task for him. Well, maybe also to try to get Alaska back to Mother Russia, but that's secondary. In July, the Russian state budget's deficit grew to $15 billion. The Center for Counterattacking Disinformation and the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine reports. This is 25% more than the annual forecast of the Russian Ministry of Finance. Sanctions against the aggressor country, a drop in profits from oil and gas exports. All this leads to a reduction in the revenue side of the budget. Obviously, let my colleague Andrew Dmitrienko talk you into the more detail.
Vladimir Putin convened a meeting on economic issues with the Prime Minister, the head of the central bank, and the Ministers of Economic Development and Finance to discuss the preparation of the new federal budget. Putin claimed the budget remains stable and even boasted of increased tax revenues from the oil and gas sector. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance reported a record budget deficit, reaching nearly 5 trillion rubles by the end of July.
This is primarily due to advanced financing of expenditures in January this year, as well as a decline in oil and gas revenues from a Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation.
As for expenditures, they rose by 21% in 2025, while revenues increased by only 3%. The backbone of the federal budget, profits from energy resource sales, dropped by 19% over 7 months.
The decline in the sector's profitability is linked to the simultaneous combination of several factors: falling global oil prices, stricter tax requirements, and sanctions restrictions. These factors increase risks to the sector's financial stability and force the Kremlin to seek new strategies to adapt to global economic challenges. From a Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine on Telegram.
The original 2025 budget plan set the deficit at 0.5% of GDP. In June, the State Duma revised the budget, tripling the deficit level. It is unlikely that even this limit will be met. According to Russian media, the Ministry of Finance is preparing for another increase in the deficit. Analysts believe this is the Kremlin's only option, as Putin will not agree to cut spending on the military-industrial complex or the ongoing war against Ukraine.
Over the remaining 4 months, even reducing the whole to the acceptable levels set in the revised budget will be extremely difficult. Neither social expenditures nor the increased utility costs in the public sector can be cut, and hardly anyone would dare to underfund the military-industrial complex. Thus, at best, the deficit will amount to about 5.5 to 6 trillion rubles by year-end. Maxim Blunt, economic commentator and publicist, in an op-ed article for Radio Free Europe.
The deficit will likely be covered at the expense of ruble stability, experts explain. The first possible method is issuing federal bonds, which would bring some funds to the budget but accelerate inflation. The second is devaluing the ruble, which Moscow has already significantly overvalued. This would lead to record price increases, particularly for consumer goods.
In other words, to get more rubles for a conditional oil dollar due to devaluation. But this is a double-edged sword. If you lower the exchange rate to around 110 rubles per dollar, all prices in the country tied to imports will automatically rise by 25%. Because at the moment, Russia is heavily dependent on imports, primarily from China.
Additionally, hidden unemployment is rising in Russia, despite official unemployment being at a historic low. Even the Kremlin dictator acknowledged this. According to Putin, since the beginning of the year, the number of people sent on furlough or part-time work has risen to 200,000. Key automotive enterprises have announced a switch to a 4-day work week. Since August, Kamaz and Gaz have moved to a 4-day schedule, and AvtoVAZ will soon follow. In late July, the Lukinsky bus plant adopted a shortened work week, while the Pavlovsky bus plant halted production entirely. Starting October 1st, Russia's largest cement producer, Samros, which manages 18 plants, will shift to a reduced work week. Employees of Russian railways have been sent on unpaid leave until the end of the year. Reported by Andriy Dimitrenko, UATV News.
Well, that seems to be it for today. My name is Henry Keane, and we are News Pulse at UATV. We appreciate your time and attention. Thank you. I also urge you to join the fight for freedom and sovereignty by subscribing to our channel and staying tuned to what is happening in the world presented from Ukrainian perspective to you. Hope to see you very soon. Stay tuned and goodbye.